Sanjay and Gary, appreciate you taking time out of your campaign weekend to come and join us for these interviews. We've been doing the interview process through AAG for about 6 years now, I think it is. Just so you know, we'll be having a makeup day on Thursday evening of this week to see if there are other individuals who could not be here because of scheduling conflicts, if they can come in. Knock on wood, we would like to have all of our endorsements out by Friday. We know early voting does start on Saturday. What we will do is not only will we contact the individuals, well, all individuals who are on the same mailing list of our endorsements, we also get ad space donated to us in various Asian periodicals, and we'll have those posted at businesses and Asian restaurants throughout the valley. Also, we have probably upwards of 10,000 email addresses amongst all the people on our dais, and we'll be sending out essentially like a slate card to all of those individuals as well. We know it's an off-cycle year, and there aren't too many sexy races to get people to the polls, so we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for your constituents to get some background information on the two of you and any other individuals who want to be interviewed, and make a more informed choice and do their civic duty by voting not only in June, but also hopefully in November. So that's a little bit about us. I know, Gary, you've heard that before, since we've interviewed you in the past. But Sanjay, this is the first time we're interviewing you. First question we're asking everyone is this, and I'll start with the person to my left, and then obviously, Gary, you'll have a chance to answer. Why have you decided to run for this particular race at this particular time, Sanjay?
My background, I have lived in Las Vegas about 20 years, and with my professional background and my education background, and having seen the issues affecting the area, primarily the education aspect, the housing industry, and the issues facing the small business community, I thought it would be a good fit for the legislature to have a person of my caliber with my experience to come in and see whether we can make a difference. That's the main reason why I'm running for this.
Gary.
Well, the focus for me is behavioral health care, mental health, and substance abuse treatment. I'm a licensed psychologist and been a professor for 30 years, specializing in addiction. And there is no licensed mental health professional in the legislature right now. So there's no advocacy group for people with mental health issues. There's no advocacy group for people with addiction problems. I have a background in public education. Every Democrat that's running, wants to work on education, but there's certainly not the expertise in behavioral health care in the legislature. So I saw that need and intend to fill it.
Obviously, many individuals who are running for the various races have their own personal areas of expertise, be it small business, be it mental health care, but by definition, that means there are numerous areas like mining or perhaps social justice, or criminal justice, I should say, where you aren't as knowledgeable. Gary, what ideas do you have, if elected, to make sure that you're making informed decisions when it comes to bills that involve areas where they're in a very different area from your professional or personal experience?
Well, number one, I'm going to retire if I'm elected, so I'll be a full-time legislator, and we'll have the time to study issues. I like policy. I know that sounds nerdy and all that. I like to read the bills. I like to read research. When I've been talking to lobbyists now, I insist that they send me original documents so I just don't get one point of view. And I've been involved in Democratic politics for a long period of time, so a lot of the issues that have come up, I saw them in 2010 when I ran, but I've been seeing them again and studying those issues. And they do include our revenue sources, education issues, they do include transportation and infrastructure. And I pretty much tell every group that I meet that I won't make a decision on an issue until I have complete information. And there's some very important issues that we need complete information, as much research as possible before we take positions on them.
Okay. Sanjay.
First of all, I don't know everything, but I have a general idea of most of the issues that's affecting our community. And in a time like this, I will reach out to organizations like you and ask your perspective on issues that's going to come in my place. I know there are a lot of small business owners representing your organization. Your input is extremely valuable to me. My background is in the housing industry primarily and early childhood education, and also my wife and I run a medical clinic out in the Summerlin Hospital. So education, housing industry, and healthcare, those are the three things that I'm very familiar with. But there are a lot of issues that I'm not very familiar with, but that's where I need to reach out to you and find out what kind of solutions we can provide as a group. Because I want to reach across the aisle, whether it's a Democratic or Republican issue. There's no such thing in my community. We have a very diverse community, and we had to look at what's the best interest of the community. So your input is extremely valuable.
It's interesting you mentioned partisan politics, which always play a huge role, in, not only in Nevada, but everywhere you go. But here in Nevada, we also have a great divide between the North and the South that kind of goes across party lines. What ideas do you have to try and minimize, not so much from a partisan standpoint, but from a geographic standpoint, that North-South tension, assuming you do go up to the state legislature?
Well, one of the things that we constantly talk about is the funding formula for the education, where the Southerners here believe that we are extremely disproportionate in funding the public education system. I believe there's a truth to that, and we need to get the help from the northern side to bridge that gap. Again, as Clark County resident, I know that in Southern Nevada we generate most of the revenue for the state, and Northern Nevada benefit out of it too. So we have to be mindful of this whole situation. I want to see whether we can create an equal playground for both Northern and Southern when it comes to the issues and policies. But again, they have to play according to the fair game. Otherwise, we cannot get anything done in the state.
Jerry, the North-South divide.
Well, looking at the funding formula, Sanjay said is a good idea, but that certainly is a North-South divide issue. There's a lot of emotion involved in it, and it's got to be bridged in a way that's equitable in both parts of the state. Now, university system, and I've had a lot of discussions with that, with people about the rivalry between the two universities. And I've said to all the parties involved, this is going to be a sit down and have statewide programs. We're not going to be duplicating programs north and south. We're going to be looking at ways we can cooperate. We have a lot of online options, so we don't have to duplicate programs anymore. And certainly the medical school has come up as a part that's going to be quite divisive. And I think that there's a political will to have a medical school here, but people need to look at where the workforce is coming from, and that comes from residencies. It doesn't come from a medical school. So it's fine to have a UNLV medical school, but unless we have more residency spots, we're still not going to attract doctors. They stay where they do their residency.
So would you advocate a residency program being established here in Las Vegas, or are you fine with the current
residency slots? And it's fine if it's associated with a UNLV medical school. The point is that the infrastructure to develop a medical school is extremely costly. And the first step should be to increase the number of residency slots. If we're talking about increasing the number of doctors, healthcare professionals in this state, a medical school, you're talking 10 years out. Residencies, you have those slots, you'll increase the number of physicians in the state rather quickly.
And Sanjay, you have a healthcare background as well. What are your feelings on the issue of a medical school and increasing residency slots here in Las Vegas?
I believe that Las Vegas, we should look at different funding solutions for the whole state. Medical tourism is going to play a huge role, and also the state of Nevada has a shortage of physicians. That's a fact. So if we are a mega gaming capital of the world, I think there is a distinct demand, and also if we have the political will as well as the will of the business community to fund a medical school, I think we should look at that option. we are a big metropolitan city in the whole United States, and not having a medical school is it's a shame in a way. Now think about this: we have the best students leaving our state, okay, especially the Asian American community, for best medical schools out of state. If we have a medical school built up here, these kids can stay in medical school here. Not only that, they have a way of coming back and giving back to the community. We should not look at short-sighted ways, and we should not look at a bandage to solve small problem. We should look at a long-term plans as well as what's the best interest of the community. That's how we should look at our plan.
I apologize. I've been kind of dovetailing my questions. Please, I know you guys have questions that you can only ask as well.
Well, yeah. I guess as you are both well aware of, being the Vice President of the Adult Residential Care Providers of Nevada, we represent over 350 small businesses and over 3,500 of our most vulnerable citizens of the state. And yet we are the least understood, okay, with least financial compensation, but overly misregulated. And because of that, in 3 to 5 years, our industry will disappear. We have a lot of issues right now. We have issues with fire marshal, misinterpreting certain statutes, certain regulations. We have the HCQC, who is incorporating medical type of statutes and regulations to a non-medical type of facilities, among other things. And yet we play a very vital role in our state by declogging our emergency rooms and also offering an alternative housing, an affordable alternative housing care for our most vulnerable citizens. Instead of our state paying $250 to $500 a day, we offer the same lodge and care for as low as $60 per day. So, in that respect, how can you help our industry, who, if we disappear, will not only affect our industry, but the ripple effect will also affect hospices, home health, medical suppliers, pharmacies, of course, other entities that we are in direct business with. So how can you help our industry if you are elected to your position?
Are you talking about Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement?
Not entirely Medicaid. Some of us are private pay, and that is basically the point. If you remove, or if our industry disappears, or for whatever reason, our most vulnerable will have, or will lose the choice or the ability to be in a place, an affordable place, without being subsidized by either Medicaid. Because right now, a lot of our residents are also private pays. They are able to afford private pays. Okay? So when you take that out, then they lose the ability to be in the place of their choice. Because right now they have a choice. I want to be in a group home A, group B, group home C, D, because they could afford.
So are you referring to the home care, home health care issue?
What's it going to explain to you? Tell them
Well, basically, for example,
tell the issue
in
on
the
the
fire
problem.
marshal issue.
That's the reason.
The fire marshal issue is reclassified because back in 2013, they are able to repeal NRS 278, where residential group homes are defined as a single family home. Because of that, it was repealed. Now, the fire marshal is able to reclassify us under the IFC of 2006 as an institution instead of a residential. Becoming an institution, now we are required with so much, structural changes. Even though we already have fire sprinkler, we have to upgrade our fire sprinkler, and among other things, millions of things that he wants wants in his interpretations, want us to comply with. And because of that, basically, what it's telling us is that eventually there will be no residential group home that will be licensed.
They're essentially being legislated out of existence, which is the main concern. Ron's the president of this group home, of a conglomerate of group homes. So obviously their industry is important to him and his family. So really the question, I guess, boils down to, how receptive will you be should an issue like this come up in a bill? Because many times it's just one line in a bill that seems to be innocuous and might otherwise be, but for this knowledge, what guarantees could you give to have open lines of communication if something like this comes up, so that you can, as you both indicated, get some knowledge from someone whose life this will directly affect that might be outside of your purview? So
well, I think it gets back to what we talked about earlier, is getting information, having the ability to meet with the legislator and present your case. And what my stance always is I'll be happy to meet with you anytime you tell me what the issue is, but I want to know both sides of it. I want to know what the consequences are for not just you, but whatever the fire marshal thinks. And I'll make an informed decision at that point. But I'll never say, before I know all the facts, no, I won't listen to you, or yes, I'll totally support you. I'll study the issue and come to a determination and be very open with you about what my stance is on it.
Ron, I acutely aware of the situation that you're in. I have attended ECHO meetings in the past, and I have visited many of the group homes too, in my assembly district as well as the other group homes outside. I know the issue personally because some of my clients, they were trying to open a group home facility, and they encountered the same issues with the fire departments. And also the local governments also have different interpretation of these laws. North Las Vegas has a completely different interpretation, and I'm very aware of it, and it's very hard to open group home facilities in that jurisdiction, mainly because, as you know, there aren't that many group homes in North Las Vegas because of the interpretation of the law. It's not because there's no older people, that's not because there's not enough Alzheimer patients. I think your group home organization provide extremely valuable service. It's I know it's over 15,000 patients being taken care of. That's what I heard from the organization. And I will fully support your organization in that, because having the small businesses to operate in such a conducive environment is very important, because it does not only affect the patients, it's also affecting the livelihood of thousands of people. And I will fully support your organization in that regard, because I've seen the discrepancies, the interpretations of the law is very different. So we need to have a uniformity and provide that. And the biggest pushback to the legislation with regard to helping the group homes coming from the big group home facilities. They do not want to saturate that market, and they want to have the business going into one big location. And I don't think that's the right way of handling it.
Thank you.
I'm a father of 5. My youngest one is in his first grade right now. And the education part of it really concerned me. Now, next Monday, which is tomorrow, it's called a Staff Development Day. There are more staff development day in this county than all of my life. Combined of all the schools, all the kids added together, there are more of these development days. I know the school system is broken. Can you tell me what's broken? What's our problem is? Where that 3-year-old, where that 3rd grader would tell you, say, I don't need to study. I'm going to become a dealer. I can make more money. Why should I study? Can you tell me what's wrong with it? And what would you do to support it? Any kind of policy to teach young what to do, or moral, ethical, because when you have an AO up the finger to the teacher and there's nothing they can do about it, we have a problem, and that problem is major. Okay. Any society problem right now, it all started from that. I've moved here since '99. My kids go to school here. Everything that seems to normal to a lot of kids is not normal. Okay. So what would you do, or what would you support of? Some kind of program. Or can you point out to me what's wrong with our school? Please.
I'm a first generation immigrant to this country. I came to this country mainly to go to school. So education is extremely important. It's not only important, education is what got to me this far in life. Having said that, so your question is a very broad question. There's a legislative part, a policy level part that needs to happen, and also a part that community needs to implement on their own. That's the two part of it. In my assembly district, our assembly district, there are 16 schools, two major high schools, Cimarron High School and Palo Verde is there. I had the opportunity to visit all these schools. One of the key things that most of these principals indicated is the funding shortfall that they're having to implement good programs, implement very good athletic programs. When you go to the Cimarron High School, they do not even have a librarian. They do not have a up-to-date technology to kids can log into log into their web and go and do their things. There are kids in 45 kids in 300 square feet portable without much of an AC in it. Think about these things. So if we want the best out of our kids, we need to provide the best possible resources to them. We are not in a third world country. We are in a first world country, developed country. We are expecting the best out of these students. So we need to provide the resources to get the best out of them. The textbooks have not been updated for the last 9 years. Some of the kids do not even have a desk to write their notes.
I guess you missed my point.
Your point is
What you had asked, what was the most broken?
Yeah. What's broken?
the broken part is we are not putting the heavy emphasis on the education system where it should be. We are not providing the funding, in my opinion, to fulfill the requirement of the students to achieve best. So we need to really fully fund the education system. We are $300 million underfunded from the last budget. And that's the legislative part. But from a community standpoint, we need to, the families have to help the students. The parents have to play a key role in it. The teachers should not be babysitters. They are there to teach the students. So essentially the parental involvement is extremely important. That's something the legislature cannot do to make sure the parents do their part. You're right, sir, that in this community in Las Vegas, the kids really didn't have that need to go out and do well to get ahead, because we have the gaming institutes providing easy jobs for them. But the things have changed now. We cannot really rely on the gaming institutes alone, because as I told you, we see a large brain drain from our community. They've been the brightest and the best kids find opportunities outside our state. And we do not have an infrastructure for them to come back to our state. We are losing as a state. So we need to make sure we provide that infrastructure, we develop that infrastructure for them to come back. And that helps. If they don't have a reason to come back to state and say, okay, I want to do very well in technology or medical side, but do we really have a platform for them to excel?
I believe those are all.
We do need to give Gary equal time here. So,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, you start off your question asking about the number of in-service days, so I want to just address that specifically. There's a legislative mandated number of days students have to attend, so teachers can have 100 in-service days, and kids are still going the same number of days in school. So it doesn't cut into the number of school days a child has. You can argue about whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it doesn't affect that. You know, you're talking about a multi-vectored variable problem, and there are no simple solutions to it. So you mentioned parents. Parents are part of the problem. The workforce is part of the problem. We're not doing a great job training our teachers. We're not doing a good job recruiting the best people into teaching. There's a resource problem, there is, and some of the solutions that are being talked about for that, I'm not sure are good solutions. We need better ones. There's a administrative issue. There is a problem with trying to measure what happens in school through standardized tests. I was a school psychologist. My PhD is in educational psychology, and that's where I started. It is a total misuse of standardized tests to measure teacher competency through achievement tests. That's not what those tests are designed to do. So the public wants some very simple black and white solutions to a very complex problem. Can we make kids be more interested in school? There's a long-term solution to that, but it isn't going to happen overnight. We have preschool that has to be funded. Kids are coming into school without basic skills. We have class size issue. We need to reduce the class sizes. There's too many kids for a teacher to handle. That's all true. We have a problem with not sufficient vocational and occupational options at the secondary level. Not every kid is going to go to college, and there are very few options for them when they're not going to be college educated. We need full-day kindergarten. I have grandchildren in Boston. Both of my kids started full-day school at 4, public school. And so our kids in Nevada have a year and a half behind kids in Massachusetts. So, you know, is there a simple solution to it? Absolutely not. Does it need more money? Yes. I'm not sure TEI is the way to do that. And you mentioned small businesses. I wonder how your small businesses feel about the teacher education initiative.
I want to ask you a question here. You said class size. What are the class size in Nevada average for
Well, it varies by grade.
Elementary.
It's about 28 to 30 now.
That little. That's little.
And you say 28, 30 is too much, they say?
Yeah. If you were a classroom teacher and you were teaching in one of our low-income schools and you had 28 to 30 kids in your classroom, almost all of them on free and reduced lunch, many of them with ADHD, and they're not medicated. They have emotional and social issues. They're not prepared when they come into that school. Good luck managing that.
Maybe
Yeah.
I can shed a little light.
Oh, yeah,
because
what's it? I don't know if you know India, the best education in the world we have. All the doctors, technologies, all India. We have 45 kids in our classroom for one teacher. And when I grew up, I had 42 students all my life. So how did they manage that?
I grew up a long time ago too, Mike.
Yeah,
You know,
42
things
kids.
are different.
Yeah, but from 40 kids, 20
Go-
20 kids are
Yeah,
too much.
Sanjay just said he visited school. Go into a classroom and watch it.
I maybe just a thought. You know, it is a panel. We kind of share it, so I'll give feedback because you may be our assemblyman, and if once you're in that train, it's hard to look back. I had my kids go to school here. My younger one is in first grade right now. And the biggest problem that I believe is happening in school, not because of money, and not because it's the teacher that's poor, but it's because the kids have got no respect. You start off with the first graders. They're rowdy as heck. Starting off with the kindergarten. If they were taught with some kind of more ethic standard, things would be much easier. They have no respect for teacher whatsoever. My son had been taught at home full time for approximately 2 years. When he goes to school, he's the only one that bows to his teacher, bows to the principal, and the principal is the teacher. They just love him. Why? Because they show them the respect.
It is
Vice
difficult to
versa.
legislate parents
But-
doing what we
but
perceive to be a
let
better
me-
What I'm
job.
saying
That's
is,
not gonna happen.
In all fairness.
hear
That's
me
not
out.
going to happen, but
Here's the thing, though. Okay.
I make sure we can distill it
If
down
you
to a
see that
question.
all the kids that go to school and then with parents both working, okay, the problem is they're lone wolf. My son, I've been telling for the last that I can remember, buckle up your seat, buckle up your seat. I'll always forget, right?
You know, it's
But when you
wonderful
go to
that
school,
that your child has that.
Well,
What about, well, let me ask you something. What
but when
about
he go
that
to school,
6-year-old
the
that goes
teacher
into...
tell them something, he come back right away.
Okay, well,
Wow,
what
it's
about the
like a
6-year-old
special-
kid that has a single parent, and that parent was using methamphetamine, and the kid got beat, and now he comes to school, he's never been read a book, he doesn't know his colors, he doesn't know his letters, he's never been taught any of that stuff, and you're saying that the teacher should replace what has happened to that child since the time it was conceived to 6 years old by telling him to sit down and shut up. Well, it doesn't work.
That's a problem that kept on recurring, isn't it? The parents was never taught in school. Hippie era to now.
In fairness,
it's
we
not
can't
there.
legislate parents
It's
being
not
better
there.
parents.
Yeah, that is.
It's not
I think
there.
that's beyond the reach of the
It-
Nevada State Legislature.
I said it is a complex
Well-
problem. You're not wrong,
The-
but that's not a solution that you can just focus on and say everything's going to be solved by that.
No. But at least that every kid, if you give them a rule of life, they can go by it, and it's very useful for them. And that's what the standard should be. Society, I've been hearing everybody say parents are responsible. Yes, they are. But at the same
Yeah.
time, the society
Well,
can.
Kevin, we're up at our time frame.
FDS, right?
So-
Drug syndrome.
Fetal drug syndrome, or it's not just
FES.
that. It's the parents using meth or some other drug. Their nutrition is bad. They don't get any prenatal care. You've got a classroom. Mike's talking about there's 45 of them. What if 40 of them were like that? You cannot manage that group. Okay, and the expectation on a teacher to take care of all of those problems with discipline or whatever is totally unrealistic. I'm not saying there's not teacher problems, because there are. I've worked in schools, everybody knows who are incompetent and who's not, and that should be solved, absolutely. But a good, competent teacher is facing multiple problems that are incredibly complex, and we've got to recognize that too.
And Sanjay, I'm sure you would agree that from your educational experience, I believe you had referenced your
So
wife.
let me explain
Just
to you.
kind of
I'll
finish
take
up quickly.
My family runs a preschool. It's been one of the oldest preschool in town. We see all different kinds of kids. Preschool, it's an all-day kindergarten type of program. You're in a very fortunate situation because you're an involved parent. You are very much in tune with your kids' needs. But unfortunately, the kids who come to our preschool, they're at-risk kids. Their parents have been abused, and it's a generational issue sometimes.
Right.
Okay, so we are not there to police their conduct of the parents. We are there to help the kid as much as possible. But what happened is after the kindergarten, they go to a different setup. They go to the transition from kindergarten to public school. It's not as smooth sometimes. They are at loss because all of a sudden they have all the attention in a smaller classroom. Now they're at a 38, 30, 35 students. They're not getting the attention that they're required. Okay. Now, to answer to your question further, we really cannot dictate how the parents should handle things, or we really cannot even expect the children to behave on a certain way in the legislative, because every kid is different. They probably have different mindset. Their health might be in a different way. Their thinking is different. We really cannot put every kid into one shape. They have different talents. They bring different values. So we have to accept it and just watch them. And that's where people like Gary come in their psychological background. They evaluate and say, what's the best for this kid? That's why we need the resources. That's why we need the resources to help them.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. We went